Warning, the following audio transmission will forever change your outlook on society. You will no longer believe the narrative. You are about to wake up and see things for what they really are. News, facts, and opinions. This is the Doom Daily Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Doom Daily Show. I am your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. The website, www.jestersvoice.com. Everyone on social media at Jester_Dooms. Happy freaking Tuesday to everybody. And it's a good day. It's a good day, ladies and gentlemen, because everybody, as of now, is officially back to the regular, Monday through Friday, where they're supposed to be routine, okay? It's fan-freaking-tastic, all right? It really, truly, 100% is. As you're listening to this, driving down the road in the morning on your way to work, I will be doing my daily responsibilities now that we're back in the regular swing of things, and then you can catch me on TikTok Live. I should be out and about running the excavator and doing some things around the homestead. So if you want to come check that out, just jump in there at Jester_Dooms on the TikTok. Yes. I hope you all are very, very pleased with the new co-host of the It's Doomsday podcast. That episode dropped yesterday. So if you're not listening to the It's Doomsday podcast and you don't know who the new co-host is, go have a listen. I'm not going to give it away, okay? I know the downloads. I know how many of you already know, all right? I know how many people already have figured it out. I know how many people already know, okay? So if you're one of the ones on this show that hasn't crossed over to the other show, or if you know about this one and you don't know about the other one, or you came here for the other one, whatever, go find It's Doomsday Podcast and listen to the latest episode and see who our brand new co-host is. That's all I got to say about that. I hope y'all's Monday was fantastic. Mine was okay. It was, I ended up not being as productive as I wanted to be for the day. I went and took a nap, and then I got up and started doing things around the homestead and ran the machine and tried to figure out things with the contractor-esque stuff and whatnots, and just the day got away from me. I was going to go on TikTok Live and bullshit with you guys and run the machine, but things didn't work out the way I had planned them to work out, unfortunately. So with that being said, I ran into a new little headache with my homestead project, and I'll cover that in the show. Outside of that, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, it was the last full day I got to spend with the in-laws. They are officially gone, ladies and gentlemen. They took off this morning. They are gone. So now I have freedom back to do things and not be bothered. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I like having my in-laws around for the sake of the kids. They like having their grandparents around, but man, they're like in small doses, they're okay. And I'm talking like very, very small doses. All right. My father-in-law is fine. He's okay. He just gets a little bit on the annoying side just because how he is. And it's not things that he does purposely to be annoying. It's just his mannerisms, how he carries himself. He's aging. So it's like you find yourself repeating the same thing to him 5 times before he can hear you because his hearing's going out, right? And then even if he does hear you, he's overthinking you in his brain because he thinks he's older and wiser. So he doesn't hear what you're saying even when he hears you anyway. So I find, they've been here for a couple of weeks now, and I find myself repeating the same thing over a couple of weeks, like re-explaining the same things. I'm like, oh God, I hope I don't get this way. I hope I don't get this way. And then my mother-in-law, fine, you could have her. that's you could fucking have her, man. If producer Scooter ever becomes this way, we're gonna have to do something with him. I'm not sure what yet, but we're either gonna have to put that man like in some weird camp somewhere where they just like smoke meats all day and I don't know, run around in the wilderness. Basically, I just like take producer Scooter to camp and give him a bunch of meat to smoke. He'll be all right. Yeah, I think he'd like that. Maybe give him like a little Starlink and a laptop and a tablet and a microphone and let him randomly scream things at recording software. I think he'd be good. Just kidding, producer Scooter. You know, we love you. We know you love you. So yeah, I'm just very ecstatically happy for the fact that they're on their way back to their place currently as I'm speaking. And, unfortunately, I will not get to see them again until, believe June or July will be the next go around that I get to see them. So I'll get a nice long break, before they come back around again. And then I'll get a little break and then we'll end up seeing them overseas. You know, it's a party all year long. It's just a little party, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys aren't giving me your IRL, your 1 week in real life interaction telling somebody about the Doom Daily Show, you absolutely freaking should be. Because we're going to start giving out code words soon. And then those code words are going to get you a prize. So we're going to see if you guys are actually listening. And we're going to see if you're actually putting the work in, like producer Scooter and myself are, to produce you guys such a lovely, non-award winning show. Okay. Non-award winning. Anyway, we'll be right back after these messages.
Can't get enough of Jester Dooms? Check out his other show, It's Doomsday Podcast, available on all podcast platforms. That's It's Doomsday Podcast.
Back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Doom Daily Show. I am your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. The website, www.jestersvoice.com. All right. I want to talk about, in the first part of the show, I got other things we're going to get to, but in the first part of the show here, I want to talk about my new contractor woes that I have. Okay. So it's not my contractor per se. Okay. But there is a disconnect when people don't hear you and they don't listen. Okay. And then things kind of become a problem later. So I'll tell you what the issue is. We're having an issue with grading and elevation with our house foundation. And I'm going to explain to you why. So back before the pandemic, I had a lovely company come out to visit the property. This company's name was Superior Walls. For those of you that don't know, Superior Walls does a precast, pre-studded concrete wall where you don't need to have a specifically perfect level surface. You don't have to pour footers. In fact, you don't have to do a lot of things. Okay. You basically just have to get a semi-smooth surface that is relatively level. And they come out, they set your walls on top of pea gravel and they lock them together. You go in, you run your plumbing lines, you're under concrete utilities, drainage, whatever you need to do. And then they come back and they pour concrete with inside these walls and it ties them and locks them all together. Sounds like a very ingenious system. Okay. I'm here for it. I'm sold on it. We have these guys come out. They give us an estimate. Well, they give us a quote and we're like, that looks really good. I'm like, okay. So, we're talking to the wife about it. We got this plan. We know what we think we know what we're going to do and yada, yada, yada. And all of the things, all the things. And, so the guy gives us a price and I said, okay, what do you need to do for me to prep for this project, whatever. I said, because I don't know when we're going to pull the trigger yet, but I'm going to make sure when I pull the trigger, I'm good and ready. And the guy just basically nonchalantly just like, listen, there's really not much you got to do. You just pick out where you want your house. You clear it. If you want to put a basement in, you're digging the hole, right? Yeah. Okay. So you dig your hole and, come out, put your pea gravel down, a few inches of that. We'll get it all level and smooth. We'll set your walls. We'll make sure they're good. You run your plumbing. We'll put the concrete in. Then you're basically done, man. We're out of here. And I was like, oh, okay. So he gives me the quote. It looks fantastic. We're trucking right along. Now, I, in my head, said, I don't like basements that feel like you're in a basement. Like, I don't like low ceiling basements. So I'm telling the guy, I said, what kind of basement height should we expect? And he says, well, we do walls in like a 9-footer. And I think he said like a 10 or 11 footer and a 12 foot. So it was like, you'd have like your basic 8-foot ceilings, then like you'd have your 9s, and then you'd have your 12s, which would be really taller. People typically use those, I guess, to build like garages and shops and shit. It was kind of the way it was explained to me. I'm like, oh, okay. So he's running me through. So I said, so how much space am I going to lose, with these walls? Like if I do a 9-foot wall, he says, well, you're going to have, if you do a 9-foot wall, you're going to have 4 to 6 inches in your concrete, in your floor, blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to have a little bit overhead probably for your utilities and ductwork or whatever you're running above the drywall. So he said, realistically, if you go with a 9-footer, you're going to end up with an 8-foot ceiling. And I said, really? I said, yeah, I don't want a low 8-foot ceiling. I mean, 8-foot ceilings aren't exactly low, but I don't want 8-foot ceilings. I want something a little taller, And he says, well, he said, what? He says, I just do the 12 then. I said, okay, what's the price difference? He writes me the quote. I see the price difference. I said, okay, I like it, Mr. Superior Wallman. I like the price on these. This is good. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking in my mind, I want a majority of this basement to be underground with a walkout basement. Okay. Why? Why do you ask why? Well, first off, it's easier to climate control with most of it being underground. Secondly, I love walkout basements. I think they're absolutely fantastic. There's nothing better to me sleep-wise than being down in a hole somewhere where you can't hear the weather, you can't feel like you're away in this soundproof dark box. Okay, like that to me, I'm sleeping good. I feel nice and cozy and secure, like I'm in a freaking cave and I'm just in there, living life, sleeping with the best sleep ever. All right. So I'm all for this walkout basement idea. Okay. I'm all for it. So needless to say, he's telling me the numbers, all these things. I'm like, all right. So I said, so realistically, I want the house to be up off the ground somewhat, right? He says, yeah, that'd be the way to do it. I said, okay. So I'm like doing the calculations in my head. I'm thinking, okay, 12-foot wall, 3 to 4 inches, maybe a little bit more of pea gravel that these walls are going to sit on. I said, so realistically, if I dig down 11 feet, that's guaranteeing me that I'm going to be 12 to potentially 16 inches off of the ground. I don't have to worry about wood rot. I don't have to worry about anything, right? Yeah. Perfect. So I rent a machine during the pandemic. I excavate everything out. I get it all done. It's done, ladies and gentlemen. It's fantastically done. Okay. Well, a little bit of time passes. The pandemic, got more locked in and we saw some crazy things happen with prices and things coming from overseas and the prices of everything skyrocketed. So we put everything kind of on hold for a little while. And then about a year ago, probably about a little over a year ago now, maybe about a year and a half to 2 years ago, I have Mr. Superior Walls come back out. And I said, hey, listen, I said, I think we're ready to pull the trigger now. I said, we've had the area excavated, all that stuff. The trees have been cleaned out, like the whole 9 yards. I think we're ready to go. He says, okay, sure, fine, no problem. I'll come out. I'll do another site visit. I said, okay, cool. Well, now Mr. Superior Walls man's quote has went way up. I said, oh, that's higher than what we talked about before. And I got a very smug kind of response of, well, yeah, things have changed, blah, 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 blah. Like just very shitty, like he didn't even want to be there. And I said, okay, fine, fair enough. But then he starts throwing a lot of extra things at me, things that are making this like relatively more costly and more expensive and unnecessary. So he tells me, I'm going to need you to have an excavating company come in here and excavate a proper road in here for our crane. And then I'm going to need you to put down this amount of gravel in this area here, in this area here, so our crane doesn't sink. Let me tell you, the area where they would park the crane is pretty much damn near flat. Okay? And it is grass. It's not like a mud pit. All right? Now, I could tell you, somebody that's worked in construction and has done jobs all over the place, most crane operators that come out have giant fucking timbers that they put underneath the feet of that crane, and those fuckers don't sink. Okay. I've seen cranes operate in some really shitty conditions. So for this guy to be like, we need a perfect road and it needs to be graveled and I need a big flat pad here for the crane to sit on and all the shit. I'm like, dude, you do realize you're asking me to add thousands of dollars into this project for you to come out and set walls. I said, what am I supposed, like, I don't want a road here. This is my yard. Well, you could move the gravel later. I'm like, who the fuck is going to move the gravel later? You want me to be out here with a rake? Like, no. This is you're making money on this. This is your prep work. And then he starts talking about all these additional trees that need to be cut that weren't in the way before, and about how this needs to be moved and that needs to be moved and blah, blah, blah. And then at one point even mentioned something like, and I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but wanted me to move the house somewhere else so they could get the crane in, so then they could put the walls in and then move the house in there. So like wanted me to get, like, actually brought up moving the house, because the house is here. It's getting moved onto the foundation. The house is already here, but wanted me to like move the house twice to fit their crane in here and shit. Like, all these things were not a thing before. So needless to say, we said, screw the fucking superior walls. Now, this is where it gets like a little bit better. I've had giant concrete trucks come through here. I've had 53. You could get a fucking crane in here. Nothing needs to be moved. Now, here's the problem, okay? The problem is we dug down an 11-foot grade, and we are now coming up with block because we're not going with the superior walls, because we were not about to start backfilling and trying to compact and then dealing with erosion and things settling and all the bullshit. We were like, nah, that ain't gonna fly. We're not doing that. Like, fuck that. It ain't happening. Okay. It's not going to be a thing. The fucking end. All right. The end. So with that being said, we are now trying to come up to grade, and our wall keeps getting taller and taller and taller and taller. And what was said in the beginning was, what I'd like to do is actually frame out our footers on the surface dirt, since it's all getting backfilled anyway. Frame these out on the surface dirt, okay? Wood frame pour the footer, okay? Run our rebar, do all the things. That footer is going to be at least 16 inches thick. So that's putting me up 1 foot. So now I can pour my footer and I could go up from that 1 foot, and then I know I only have to go up so far and I'm going to be above grade. Well, the contractor was like, nah, dude, you'll save so much money. Just dig them. Screw it, dig them. I'm like, yeah, but what are we going to do about our grade and everything else? He said, well, it doesn't matter because you're going to do a floating concrete floor in there. He said, so basically the long and the short of it is, when we pour that floor, it has nothing to do with the height of the block because it's going to be poured within the block. So we'll backfill this with dirt and gravel, put your plumbing and everything else before we pour the concrete. So you're not going to have, he said, even if we go up extra courses with block, you're not going to have this, giant thing because you'll be backfilling this. So it's fine. Like, don't even worry about it. So we said, okay, sure, fine, fair enough. Hit it with the transit, everything else, then come to realize after the fact, well, we've already put our doors in. We already got our knockouts for our windows in. We can't change that really now. So our floor height needs to be where it is, regardless if we're going up or not. Now we can always put a drop ceiling if the ceiling feels too high, but why would you just assume waste space? So now that's the current debacle. And that's what I did yesterday, was try to figure out this new elevation change. And it's looking to me like everything is going to work out and it's going to be fine. And we're going to have nice tall basements, or nice tall ceilings in our basements, somewhere in the tune of like 9-foot ceilings in the basement. Maybe in fact, a little bit more than 9 foot. We might end up with like 10-foot ceilings, which I'm here for. But I think, in my opinion, once you start getting above that 10-foot mark, you don't feel like you're in a house anymore. You feel like you're in a fucking warehouse. Because yes, you have this nice overhead space and you don't feel like cramped or enclosed like you're in a basement anymore. But the reality is that, what do you do with that space? It's just all empty, dead space. You're just staring at really tall fucking walls. Needless to say, At the end of the day, that's the debacle we're dealing with. Anyway, we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, Producer Scooter here. First off, thank you for downloading and participating in the wide world of Jester Doom. Please be sure to check out jestersvoice.com website. Everything you want to know is located on jestersvoice.com. If you're looking for salacious details, it's on jestersvoice.com. Don't forget to share the show with your friends and even with all your enemies. And now, back to the musings of Jester Doom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Doom Daily Show. I am your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. Everyone on social media at Jester_Dooms. Okay. There was a bunch of things I wanted to cover on the show today, and the contractor bullshit and the Homestead Project got away from me a little bit. Okay, but I'm going to try to combine two articles into one for the last segment of the show here. Hopefully this will tickle everybody's fancy. Okay, so on the Epic Times, this is by Nicholas Zifkat, Sam Dorman, Washington correspondent, Ajun Singh on the Epic Times. This is Maduro pleads not guilty to narco-terrorism charges in federal court. Okay. New York City, captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pled not guilty during a historic arraignment in the borough of Manhattan, where he faces an indictment on various conspiracy charges, as well as the potential for decades in prison. I'm innocent, Maduro, 63, said. I am not guilty. I am a decent man, the president of my country. The former dictator entered a Manhattan courtroom on January 5th at about 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and could be seen wearing his blue prison uniform. Both he and his wife wore headsets to hear translators of the proceedings. Their appearance marked their rapid descent from leading one of the largest oil-producing nations just days before. Judge Alvin Heatherstein of the U.S. District of Court for Southern District of New York offered a summary of the indictment before both Maduro and his wife declined to hear it read in full. The couple did not seek bail, but requested the ability to seek it at a future date. Maduro told Hellerstein that he had spoken with his attorney and would like a counselor visit. Although Maduro was indicted under the first Trump administration, he did not enter U.S. custody until January 3rd, when the U.S. military conducted a surprise strike on Venezuelan capital of Cesaras. A government attorney said the two were taken into custody at 11:30 a.m. on January 3rd. Their plane landed in New York City at the same day about 4:31 p.m. Shortly after news broke of Maduro's capture, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced a new indictment targeting both Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil and American courts, Bondi said in a post on social media. All right, now, there's a lot of stank being made around the media and the internet in regards to this, okay? There are people that are absolutely pissed that this guy is on U.S. soil and he was taken from his country, and there's people that think it's wrong. I, on the other hand, say go get them all, bring them here, and make them face justice. That's what I say. I say if you're going to poison American youth, if you're going to bring these drugs to our soil and ruin people's lives, you should find asylum nowhere. That's how I feel. All right, so secondary article, and I was going to split this up into two, but we're just going to roll it all into one segment here. Key takeaways from Maduro's first court appearance, New York City, again on the Epic Times. New York City, deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores made their first courtroom appearance on January 5th after a surprise capture by the United States days earlier in Cesaras. Both pled not guilty while offering some statements on the case. Their brief appearance came after the Justice Department brought a 4-count indictment naming Maduro, his wife, and others. They're charged with narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess those items. Here are some of what the main takeaways and what to expect from the case. Maduro and his wife pled not guilty. Maduro, 63, and Flores, 69, maintained their innocence and described themselves as leaders of their country. In quotations, "My name is Nicolas Maduro Moros, president of the Constitutional Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela." Maduro said in comments interpreted from Spanish he was wearing a blue prison uniform during the brief hearing. In Spanish, Flores said, I am First Lady of the Republic of Venezuela." Maduro pled not guilty, saying, "I am innocent. I am not guilty of anything that is mentioned here." Flores said, "Not guilty, completely innocent." During his plea, Maduro began making statements about his apprehension by the United States. The judge interrupted Maduro and stopped him from speaking further. Their statements came after the Trump administration accused Maduro of partaking in a narco-terrorism scheme. Multiple countries, including the United States, also did not recognize Maduro as the legitimate winner of the Venezuela's election in 2024. In a January 3rd post to social media, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, "Maduro is not the president of Venezuela. His regime is not the legitimate government." He said that Maduro was the head of a cartel de los Sols, a narco-terror organization which has taken possession of a country. Back in Venezuela, Maduro's deputy, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in as interim leader. The question of Maduro's status as a foreign leader could impact how the case proceeds. So I wonder if that means that he will have some sort of diplomatic immunity. All right. And these articles go on. There's not enough time to squeeze them both in one segment. Like I said, I didn't mean to run over the first segment as long as I did. But those are the very brief takeaways. And again, you guys, if you've listened to the show before, you know that I get very sick of the topics that are in the media. So we probably will cover this again, but we'll probably take a big break from it once it starts dying down in the media a little bit, right? Because that's just how we do things. And then we'll come back to it at a later date when it starts making headlines again and the case starts rolling on and things like that. Because you guys know how this goes. This case could be ongoing forever. Like it could get drug out for a while. Anyway, with that being said, everybody that downloaded the show, tuned in today, thank you for listening to the Doom Daily Show. I thank you. Producer Scooter thanks you. I want to make sure you guys are going out and checking out the It's Doomsday podcast, also available on Spotify and other places you may listen. All right, and we will see you guys back here on Wednesday, tomorrow, for another exciting episode of the Doom Daily Show. Have a great day, everybody. Producer Scooter, hit that button.
News, facts, and opinions. This is the Doom Daily Show.